this is all about, why this interview's happening in large part. Your dog Pepper, I think it's safe to say, is a hero by any metric. And Pepper gave her life in service of the United States of America. And that's, it's tough for me sitting here even bringing it up because I love dogs so unbelievably much. Your dog was killed in a mission in 2006. And I want to dive into that. And feel free to talk about what you feel you can talk about. You don't have to get into all of it, obviously, if there's security reasons. Let's walk through the mission, everything changed for you with Pepper. What happened? What's the setup?
It was a big coordinated mission with lots of adjacent units. Like the 101st was involved. So it was, you could tell it was like, it was on our radar, but also the whole army's. And it was during the time of Zarqawi, AMZ. Most people have forgotten about him, but man, I remember driving with my wife in the car and hearing on the radio on a talk show one of the beheadings, and that just pissed me off. It still pisses me off to do that to a human being. So it was at that time, and it was a 5 minute flight. Just we were in Baghdad. It was South Baghdad. It was a nasty, horrible area. And as we flew in, I remember seeing parts of Humvees. Like it was just other units had gotten their butts kicked there. So we went, hoping it was AMZ. Boom, target secure, quick, quick, quick. Everything's secure, no jackpot. Pepper and I flew home on our little bird back to our house, which is right on the Tigris River. And right when we landed, they're like, "Hey, we got a squirter." So boom, we go back. It's like, okay, that happens sometimes, no big deal. So we flew back. We land. We're not taking fire, but it's like, hey, he's right here in this area. So the target's still secure. And now everybody, hundreds of people, are waiting to find this squirter. And so me and Pepper come out, easy, like we got this. And I'm seeing this, I'm getting help of a flash, a big light showing me where he is. So I launch Pepper, and she goes in and sort of can't find her way. So I got there to help her, and I slid down this damn muddy bank. It had been raining, and it's still hard to explain what those farm fields are like in Iraq, because people picture a desert, and it is, but on the river, man, it's like jungle. And I slid like 12 feet down this slippery mud bank right next to where he was in a spider hole. He had made a hole. Pepper's going in. I hear a pop, like that's what the dog is for, so that we don't have to get shot. It sucks, but more times than not, the dog goes in there and bites the guy, and he drops his gun, and we win. So all that happened. I scramble back up the hill. I'm not trying to get shot. There's other team members with me, and we unloaded everything we could into this just thicket area on the Tigris River bank.
So there's
Rock,
gunfire erupting everywhere
yep,
now.
grenades, but there's also just normal Iraqi houses, so we can't drop a bomb, we can't do gun runs. It's the textbook situation for K9. So we sort of come back, regroup. I heard a pop, so I thought she was shot and done and gone, and then she came back. I talk about this in the doc, but she comes back soaking wet. I check her for bullet wounds. She's not. There's no bullet wounds, and then she revives and she's great. But this is the hard part. This is what I didn't talk about in the documentary, and the part that sucks, and I'm coming to terms with. So we're on the radios, of course, with the commander. Hey, how's it? And I like nobody's going anywhere until we find this squirter. But it's got to be quick because the sun will come up, and we don't want to be there in the daylight. So like I made the decision. I didn't have to send her again. Nobody tells you that. It's not, you never, commanders give you their intent and we make the decisions. So there's a lot of this, and I've talked to shrinks about this for years, and I won't get into that. But she went, I decided to send her. She went, and then just the weirdest thing was she turned back and looked at me. I'm looking through my night vision. And like I said to my buddy, I was like, she's never, did you see that? He's like, yeah, what's she doing? I said, she looked back at me and then into this spider hole. And then, whoa, she does her thing. And this dude comes out, and my buddy shot him 3 or 4 times. And he's floating down the river. And so we tried and tried and tried. Man, I, I like Mike Tyson. I watch some of his interviews. When he gets emotional, he just keeps talking through it. So like I'm just gonna talk through it.
Do whatever you need to do.
So like we got him. Pepper did not like the water. We had pools there at Uday and Kusei's guest houses. They had all these pools. So we would swim sometimes, and I would try to get her in the water, and she just didn't like it. I mean, she's 53 pounds of muscle and love. Like, she was the only dog that you could just let loose in the house, and you hear her going room to room, man. It was so cool. Pepper! Or somebody get killed, and it's just so quiet, and I let Pepper out, and she knew the mood. She'd go up quietly and just be with guys who love dogs. So she was so special, and she looked back, and I was like, I still don't know. She looked back, then she committed, then that happened, and we looked and looked and looked, and I got on a little bird. I mean, these little birds are little; they can just land like anywhere. So me and my buddy, maybe Fido, I'm not sure who it was, jump on this little bird, and the pilot's just crabbing along. We're looking for her, and then we would get off and go down in this thick stuff, and it's just I've been to some jungles, but this was different. It's just almost like thousands of years of farming and life. It's just the most impossible terrain I've ever encountered. So hard to explain. So we're looking for her, and then when the sun barely starts to come up, the commander's asking for updates, and I know we can't stay in the light, but I know.
Can you explain that real quick? And I don't mean to cut you off. I heard that in the documentary, and I made a point of that. Is it just because you guys would be heavily outnumbered, or is the fear that there's enemy fighters everywhere around you? Like, why do we got to get out before the sun comes up?
Well, at that time, it was like that. And just because we had such good technology that at night they just wouldn't see us, and in the daytime they could, and they would just put IEDs in the roads we were going to go on. So they would just blow us up. We weren't worried about a gunfight or being outnumbered or anything like that. If that did happen, it was quick on our part, but it didn't. So it was just a matter of IEDs.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So we couldn't. Yeah, man. We searched so hard for hours. People were searching, and then they're like, "Hey, I see her strobe," because I had an IR infrared strobe on her, that you click on whenever you release your dog. So I'm like, okay, oh my God, we found her, thank God. So we go down this, nasty mudslide thickets, and it was just her strobe, not her. So basically, I figured out that like when she engages this guy, she bit him. They got in a fight. He dropped his pistol, and they went in the water, and it's a fast moving river, and they both went down the river. So now the sun's coming up and the commander says, we have to go. And I'm like, we can't fucking go without Pepper. And he said, we have to go. And normally I don't react like, I can hold it in, but, that moment was the start and the end and the beginning of so many things. I punched the ground. I punched the ground as hard as I could and I screamed. And we're not supposed to be making any noise. I didn't care. And we left and we flew home on that little bird. And I just got off and I remember I took her plastic kennel that she would be in and I threw it as far as I could on the helo pad. And then we walked into our house and people were trying to say, something to me. What do you say? What can you say? And I just went in my little bed, that was all covered up with ponchos, and took Ambien and passed out. And for 2 days, like I just couldn't. And but later that first morning, right when I went in, a pilot came down into my room. He's like, "Hey, we think we see her on ISR." An eye in the sky, like there's a dog. So I come running up to the talk and I was like, oh, that's not her. I could tell, but I'm like, thank you, man. Thanks. It was just some other dog. So yeah, I mean, that started the dreams. Every night I'm dreaming of Pepper running back and forth, waiting for extraction, you know. But I also know I got a baby girl at home, a 1-year-old daughter, that if I would have had to gone in that thing, I probably would have not been able to be her dad. So yeah, that's Pepper.